talked with your lawyers about whether or not you've testified. Mr. Harpootlian just suggested advice he's given to you. The court has no comment whatsoever as to whether you should or should not testify. But do you wish to confer with lawyers some more about whether or not you should testify?
No, sir. I don't need to talk to them anymore.
Have you made a decision as to whether you're going to testify?
Yes, sir.
All right. And what is your decision?
I am going to testify. I want to testify.
All right. Very well. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the first most fascinating aspect of Alex Murdaugh's trial testimony was the fact that he actually testified. It is so rare for a defendant in a criminal matter to testify against himself or herself. So the fact he was actually testifying was just electric, and everyone, I think, could feel that. I can't even imagine what it would have been like to be in that courtroom, but you could even feel it through the stream. But anyway, the fact that he testified alone is my first issue. So here's a clip from that starting point of the testimony.
Thank you, Your Honor. The defendant, Richard Alexander Murdaugh, wishes to take the stand.
Place your left hand on the Bible and raise your right. You swear or affirm that the testimony you give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. You'll have a seat on the witness stand. Adjust that microphone. And if you don't mind stating your full name again and spelling your last name.
I'm Alex Murdaugh, M-U-R-D-A-U-G-H. Good morning.
June 7th, 2021, did you take this gun or any gun like it and shoot your son Paul in the chest in the feed room at your property off Moselle Road?
No, I did not.
Mr. Murdaugh, did you take this gun or any gun like it and blow your son's brains out on June 7th or any day or any time?
No, I did not.
Murdaugh, did you take a 300 blackout, such as this, and fire it into your wife Maggie's leg, torso, or any part of her body?
No, I did not.
Did you shoot a 300 blackout into her head, causing her death?
Mr. Griffin, I didn't shoot my wife or my son anytime. Ever.
Mr. Murdaugh, is that you? On the kennel video at 8:44 p.m. on June 7th, the night Maggie and Paul were murdered.
It is.
Were you in fact at the kennels at 8:44 p.m. on the night Maggie and Paul were murdered?
I was.
Did you lie to Sled Agent Owen and Deputy Laura Rutland on the night of June 7th and told them that you stayed at the house after dinner?
I did lie to them.
Did you lie to Agent Owen and Agent Croft on the follow-up interview on June 10th that the last time you saw Maggie and Paul was at dinner?
I did lie to them.
And in the interview of August 11th, did you tell Agent Owen and Agent Croft, did you lie to them by telling them that you were not down at the kennels on that night?
Yes.
So as you see, they came right out of the gate. Boom. Did you kill your wife? With the gun, you know, the defense attorney holding the gun. No. Did you kill your son? No. Then the next statement. Were you at the kennel when that video was made? Yes. And I think that is the reason that Alex Murdaugh had to take the stand. In my opinion, again, this is not legal advice, this is my opinion. In my opinion, I think he knew there was no way that was going to go away. He had to address that because, in my opinion, that is one of the state's strongest pieces of evidence, is that video by the dog kennel. To me, it's critical, and I think that's why he just decided to testify. I think he knew he was going to have to address that issue. Now, will the jury believe him? I don't know. We'll find out soon now. So let's go to the second most fascinating aspect, I thought, of the testimony of Alex Murdaugh. Here we go.
Let me ask you this. Were the dogs barking and carrying on or going out into the woods or acting like they sensed somebody was around that they didn't know?
Were the dogs acting like there was somebody around that they didn't know?
Yeah, like dogs do.
No.
No, they weren't.
There was nobody
There was no
around that the dogs didn't know.
Okay. Dogs didn't, to your indication, sense anything out of the ordinary. They were just chasing after the guinea.
There was nobody else around
All right, good.
for them to sense.
You've heard the kennel.
So as you just saw, I thought the testimony that Alec admitted that the dogs weren't acting crazy at that time period when Paul was making the video, right before the time that the prosecution says that Maggie and Paul, their phones stopped working forever. I can't remember the exact phrase that he used, but it was very compelling. And so the fact that the dogs weren't agitated, and the fact that he admits that no one, like no stranger was there at that time, I think is really going to be important. And I'm really looking to see if the prosecution hammers this point home down in their final closing arguments. So I'm going to be looking for that. So now let's go to the third most fascinating aspect of Alex Murdaugh's testimony the past few days. Here we go.
What was the term you used for that? A small amount of yip yap?
Yeah, and just to be clear, Mr. Waters, there was never, ever a point in time where I thought that the people that were involved in the boat wreck did this to Paul and Maggie.
Okay.
I've never thought that.
All right. I never thought that, but it's literally one of the first things that you said out of the 911 call.
Nah, that's not what I said. I never, ever, ever, under any point in time, believed that those kids that were riding in that boat, or their parents, or their families, I didn't believe that any of the families, the people that were involved in the boat wreck, had anything to do with hurting Maggie and Paul.
Okay.
But I can tell you that at that time, and as I sit here today, that I believe that boat wreck is the reason why Paul and Maggie were killed.
Okay.
And I'm certain, I believe that.
It was random vigilantes, the 5'2" vigilantes, huh?
No, what I believe, Mr. Waters, is I believe that when Paul was charged criminally, there were so many leaks, half-truths, half-reports, half-statements, partial information, misrepresentations of Paul that ended up in the media all the time. And when I tell you the social media response that came from that was vile, the things that were said about what they would do to Paul, they were so over the top that nobody would believe anybody would get on social media and do that. But I believe then, and I believe today, that the wrong person saw and read that.
Okay.
Because I can tell you for a fact that the person or people who did what I saw on June the 7th, they hated Paul Murdaugh, and they had anger in their heart. And that is the only reason that somebody could be mad at Paul like that and hate him like that.
Gotcha. All right, so we've got now,
But that's why
the-
I did then believe it was the boat wreck, and I believe now that the boat wreck
All right, so we've
had
got,
something to do with it.
all right, so we've got random vigilantes because of the boat wreck.
Now, I don't know that they're random vigilantes.
Well, you just said it wasn't the family or the kid, or
No.
the kids or the family of the other kids in the boat, right?
But
So
where-
you're saying it's somebody off of social media, and you don't have any evidence of that, do you?
Not
You
to-
just believe that, you're just telling that jury that as you try to explain the lie that you told for the first time yesterday, isn't that right?
No, sir, that's not right.
It's not right. All right, well, let me ask you a question then. So what you're telling this jury is that it's a random vigilante,
That's your
the
term.
12-year-old 5'2" people that just happened to know that Paul and Maggie were both at Moselle on June 7th, that knew that they would be at the kennels alone on June the 7th, that knew that you would not be there, but only between the times of 8:49 and 9:02, that they show up without a weapon, assuming that they're going to find weapons and ammunition there, that they commit this crime during that short time window, and then they travel the same exact route that you do around the same time to Alameda. That's what you're trying to tell this jury?
You got a lot of factors in there, Mr. Waters, all of which I do not agree with, but some of which I do.
So I found this part of the testimony fascinating because you can see this is Alex's theory of the case. This is who he thinks murdered his wife and child. And, you know, you can tell from his testimony that in my opinion, he's being very, I think, candid with what he believes happened. Now, again, will the jury believe that? I don't know, but he's very passionate in this testimony, and he's very determined to say that he thinks that whoever did that to Paul and Maggie, you know, really hated Paul, and it was because of this negative press and you know, just amongst the community resulting from that horrible, tragic boat accident. So, and I thought the prosecutor really missed an opportunity here to kind of hammer that home. He just kind of, I kind of almost felt like Alex got under his skin there, which is related to my fourth fascinating item of the testimony, but I kind of felt like he was that Alec was maybe getting under his skin a bit. But in any event, he kind of just ends, as you saw, he just ends it and he says, all right, and he moves on to the next question. So I don't know, in my opinion, I thought he really could have hammered home on that because he did ask a very complex question. And I think that there was an opportunity there for the state to really bring that point home. I don't know, what did you think? I thought that was a miss by the state. Okay, on to number 4.
Mr. Murdaugh, are you a family annihilator?
A family annihilator? You mean like, did I shoot my wife and my son?
Yes.
No. Would never hurt Maggie Murdaugh. I would never hurt Paul Murdaugh under any circumstances.
Say that.
So here's where I kind of felt like, again, to my last point about was Alec getting under the prosecution's skin a little bit, because like I said, at times the prosecution seems to talk very quickly, and sometimes I'm like, whoa, slow down. I think you're getting steam here. And I almost think like, I mean, obviously he's the main prosecutor and he's very good, but I felt like at times of the testimony, maybe a different personality would have been better. Someone that wasn't so caustic and going at him, because, you know, Alex is going to be on his best defense, right? I mean, he is, because he's going to, you know, he's on the stand. But I think, you know, someone that wasn't coming right at him and maybe can encourage him to get that chatty Cathy thing going on, because when he starts talking, he's like, there were times where I was like, oh my gosh, he's really gonna step in it, right? So I kind of felt like there was some frustration here. And I just think the family annihilator thing, I mean, it just, it was a bit too much. I don't know. What did you think? I just thought it was a bit too much. I think it kind of cheapened the argument a bit. So luckily he turns it around really quickly, but I don't know. I thought that we could have done without that. But what do you think? Okay, so here's the fifth most fascinating part, in my opinion, of Alex Murdaugh's testimony. I'm going to play it in its pretty much in its entirety. I cut a little bit because it gets a little long and there's some side testimony, but I think the point here is where it was really good for the prosecution to end on this point, because I think it's their strongest argument. And it's basically what I'll call liar, liar, pants on fire. Here we go.
Excuse me?
You say that, but you lied to Maggie, didn't you?
I did lie to Maggie
You lied to Paul.
sometimes.
You lied to your father.
I'm sure I did at some point.
Did you tell him all the stuff you'd been up to over the years before he died?
No, I didn't tell him.
Did you lie to your brothers?
About financial things,
Yes.
I would have lied to Randy at some point, I'm sure.
Did you lie to him about the last time you saw your wife and son alive?
I did.
Did you lie to their wives?
I'm sure I did.
Did you lie to Marion Proctor?
Yes.
Did you lie to Bart Proctor?
Yes.
Did you lie to the Brandstetters?
Yes.
Did you lie to your best friend Chris Wilson?
Probably.
Did you lie to your other friend Barrett Bulware when you took his money?
No, sir.
No.
I didn't lie like I told you. I didn't lie directly to him. I lied to him by omission, like we talked about. I mean, I didn't talk to him. I didn't see him at that time.
Did you lie to your law partners?
I did.
Did you lie to him about the kennels?
Some of them.
Did you lie to Mark Ball?
Yeah, I believe, based on what Mark said, I believe I did.
Did you lie to Ronnie Crosby?
According to what he said, I believe I did.
Did you lie to Johnny Parker?
I don't believe I ever discussed that with Johnny.
Did you lie to him about the finances when you borrowed that money in July of 2021?
I don't know if I lied to him about, I don't think Johnny asked me, I don't think I had to lie to Johnny about that, so I don't know.
Did you lie? Well, you certainly didn't disclose to him the truth when you borrowed that $250,000, did you?
I did not tell him what I was gonna use it for.
I mean, didn't we say before that not telling the whole truth is the same as telling a lie?
Sure it is.
You don't think that's a lie, though?
I'm just saying, Mr. Waters, I'm not taking issue with that, but I don't even know that Johnny and I mean, Johnny had loaned me money numerous times. It wasn't any long sit-down discussion where Johnny wanted to know exactly what I was doing with it. That conversation would have been, I needed it, Johnny was always willing to help me, and that would have been the conversation. So, on that specific event, did I lie to him? I don't know.
Yeah, he ended up being out $477,000, didn't he?
He ended up being out a lot of money.
And thank you for your qualifications as to that. Did you lie to Lee Cope?
I don't know. I don't know if Lee Cope was around when I said that or not.
Did you lie to Danny Henderson?
I did lie to Danny.
Did you lie to Jeannie Seconder?
About finances, yes, I did.
You didn't ever talk to her about the kennels?
No, I wouldn't think so.
Did you lie to Annette Griswold?
I did.
Did you lie to Christy Gerald, your other secretary, the paralegal?
I don't believe she and I discussed. I would have at some point, I'm sure.
Did you lie to Michael Gunn?
I'm sure I did at some point, but I mean, Michael wasn't involved in any of this, so I don't know that any of this ever came up with Michael.
Did you lie to your clients? Did you lie to Pamela Pinckney?
I did.
Natasha Thomas.
I don't know that I dealt with Natasha, but I certainly lied about that.
Hakeem Pinckney.
Again, I don't know that I talked to Hakeem, but I certainly lied about that.
Arthur Badger.
I did.
The Plyler girl.
I'm not sure that I talked specifically to them, but I lied about that.
Dion Martin.
I lied to Dion.
Johnny Bush.
Yes.
Manuel Cristiani.
I didn't have any conversations with him, but I certainly lied about it.
Jamie Risher.
Yes.
Randy Drawdy.
Yes.
Jordan Jinks.
Yes.
Mary Duncan.
Yes.
Adriana Hay.
Yes.
Angel Gary.
Yes.
Christopher Anderson.
Yes.
Elise Mallory.
Yes.
Thomas Moore.
No.
You never lied to him? You just took his money. You never had to actually lie to his face, is what you're saying?
He and I never had a conversation, but I did take that money.
Did you lie to Tony Satterfield just a couple of months before June 7th? We saw the text. You want me to get it out?
Just remind me. There's been a lot. Just remind me what it was.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as 463.
And I don't remember the exact date, so.
That was in April of 2021, is that right? Where you text him and tell him how hard you're working on the case, but in fact you had stolen millions of dollars from him? Tony Satterfield, who got up on this stand and told the jury about that?
I texted him on April 12th, so 5 weeks before June 7th.
Told him everything was okay, you're working hard, right? It's a complex case.
Yeah, I told him I was working on the case.
He was the son of your longtime housekeeper, Gloria.
I'm sorry?
He was the son of your longtime housekeeper, Gloria, who had served your family for many years.
That's correct.
And you stole millions from those boys.
I stole those funds.
And he,
When was the last time you were here with them? Or talked to them or anything like that?
It was earlier tonight. I don't know the exact time, but
Okay.
I left. I was probably gone an hour and a half from my mom's, and I saw them about 45 minutes before that.
that was Sergeant Green, correct?
Yeah, that was Sergeant Green.
And at that point in time, SLED was not there. No one had gotten GSR from you. Your law partners or Sheriff Hill were not there.
That's correct.
No one had asked you about your relationships. David Owen was not there,
That's correct.
but you still told the same lie. And all those reasons that you just gave this jury about the most important part of your testimony was a lie too. Isn't that true, Mr. Murdaugh?
I disagree with that.
Nothing further.
So those are the 5 most fascinating things that I took out of the 2 days of Alex Murdaugh's testimony. I mean, there were other great parts. It's just those were things that kind of stuck out at me that either I was waiting for them to be addressed. So I think Alec did a good job on the stand. Is it enough for the jury to believe? I don't know. That'll be up for the jury. But I do think he held his own. And I wasn't seeing like some of the wins that I expected to see from the prosecution when you actually get a defendant on the stand. That is so rare. But that being said, I think that the way that the prosecution ended with that liar, 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 that testimony, I think that was really powerful. And So we'll have to see. I think it's at the end of the day, it's always about who does the jury believe. But I do think that Alex held his own, and I wouldn't be surprised if he put some doubt into some of those jurors. But anyway, what do you think? I thought it was fascinating. And again, like I said, there's more parts of the testimony, but those are the 5 that stood out at me. And I'd love to hear in the comments what 5 stood out from you. I've gotten so many awesome comments from all of you all and coming up with different theories. And I think it's so fascinating. We can all learn from each other, because at the end of the day, no one knows, I guess, the killer, and whether you think that's Alec or not. But, you know, we all kind of just don't know and can only go through what we see that's presented at the trial. So anyway, thank you so much for joining again. I didn't have a crime update this week because there was really not much else to say, but I will be covering Sarah Boone. I'm going to have some really cool content coming up this month. But I will be covering the Sarah Boone case, and many of it will be in person. I'm in South Florida. I grew up in the Orlando area. My best friend lives there, so it's no problem for me to go to that trial. So I will be covering at least parts of it in person. But thank you again for everyone that's recently subscribed. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and I hope y'all have a great day. See you in my next one. Bye.